Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging into a really eye-opening story. It's about family, finances, and, well, finding your voice. We're going to unpack the journey of Selena Mitchell. She's a 32-year-old senior financial analyst. And a recent promotion, plus this big $12,800 bonus she got, it kind of became the catalyst for this huge personal revelation.
Yeah, what's so fascinating here is just how deeply this story resonates. I mean, it touches on challenges so many of us face,
Yep.
right? Balancing personal success with these complex family dynamics, especially when money gets involved.
Yeah.
And it really raises that question. What happens when the lines between, love and obligation get dangerously blurred, maybe even disappear?
Exactly. That's such a critical point. This wasn't just about one thing, one event. It was really a lifetime of patterns that Selena very bravely chose to break. And you're going to hear some specific details that honestly might make your jaw drop, but also these incredibly relatable moments of self-discovery and strength, things we can all learn from.
Okay, so let's dive into Selena's world a bit. She's 32, lands this great job, senior financial analyst at Blue Ridge Wealth Management in Asheville, North Carolina. And that $12,800 bonus, it's earmarked, specifically for a condo down payment, a dream she's had for years, having her own place after renting forever.
But to really get the weight of that bonus for Selena, you absolutely have to look back. Her childhood growing up in Biltmore Village, it was marked by, well, significant financial instability. Her parents, Odora and Robert, they kind of treated cash like it just magically reappear. And that attitude, it had deep consequences for her. Yeah, and what's really striking is how early it all started. By the time she was 12, maybe even younger, she was the one balancing their checkbook, pointing out overdue bills.
Yeah.
And her parents, they just laughed, called her their little bookkeeper. No. But for Selena, watching checks bounce, hearing creditors call, she said it left scars. How common is that for a kid to step into that kind of role?
Well, it's more common than you might think, and it actually has a name. It illustrates this phenomenon called parentification. It's where a child takes on adult responsibilities, often financial, sometimes emotional. And this early role, being the family's, de facto financial manager, it sets a really dangerous precedent. It shaped her entire relationship with money, with obligation for her whole life. You see this clear pattern emerging even then. Selena saving her babysitting money in a shoebox. Not for something fun, not for herself, but because, and this is her quote, Dad would need gas money or Mom would borrow for the power bill. Recognizing that early wiring, that conditioning, it's really key to understanding why breaking free later is just so incredibly hard.
And that phrase, family helps family, that became their shield, right? Their justification for everything. I mean, remember that story? The $300 she saved up when she was 15 for a school art trip to Charleston. Gone. Just vanished. For a leather couch they couldn't afford, her piggy bank, emptied for new tires, graduation money, poof, household expenses. These weren't just like financial losses. They felt like repeated betrayals just chipping away at her trust.
Absolutely. And you see her trying to protect herself even then. She worked 2 jobs in college, waitressing at Tupelo Honey, tutoring at UNC Asheville just to cover her accounting degree. And crucially, she turned down her parents' offers to manage her scholarships. That shows an early conscious awareness of their, let's say, tendencies. So graduating with honors, getting that job at Blue Ridge, it felt like a massive victory for her, a chance to finally build something they couldn't touch. Her first real shot at financial independence.
So Selena pours everything into her career for 6 years, gets this promotion. And her boss, Karen, praises her for saving a client millions. Selena said that compliment hit deeper than any family compliment ever could. But, as she says, family's complicated. She still loves them. Her sister Rachel, who's 3 years younger, married to Derek, now pregnant.
Right. And even though she was working with a therapist, Dr. Ellis, specifically on setting boundaries, Selena still found it really hard to say no. No to requests for groceries or car repairs or, little loans here and there. That family dynamic, her mom's sort of sighs, her dad's lectures about family duty, they still cut deep. And this really highlights the emotional manipulation that's often in play in these situations. It makes it incredibly difficult to untangle the finances from that feeling of family loyalty.
Okay, so fast forward. Her mom calls, says they want to have a small dinner to celebrate Selena's promotion. Just Mom, Dad, Rachel, Derek, maybe Aunt Clara. Sounds nice, right? Selena actually dares to hope. She buys sparkling cider for Rachel, gets a new dress. She's picturing this quiet evening, thinking maybe, just maybe, this could be a turning point. How much does that hope set her up for what comes next?
Oh, massively. The stark contrast between what Selena expected, this quiet, intimate celebration, and the reality she drove into, it just underscores how deep her emotional investment still was, how much she still craved their approval. I mean, Her stomach must have just dropped when she pulled up. Seeing all his cars lining the street, hearing music drifting from the backyard, seeing gift boxes stacked high in the garage, this wasn't some simple miscommunication. It feels like a deliberate deception, playing directly on her desire for connection and acceptance.
So her mom greets her at the door, all smiles. "Selena, you're here. Everyone's been waiting." And Selena's thinking, "Everyone? I thought it was just family." And then the big reveal. The backyard is completely transformed. We're talking 81 guests, a floral arch, catering from the Admiral, which is not cheap, and this glittering banner stretched between two oak trees. "Welcome, baby Selena." Not her celebration. It was Rachel's baby shower, and they'd named the baby after her.
Yeah, this wasn't just a party. It was a full-on production, a calculated one. You mentioned the catering entrees there start at like $50 a head. Custom flowers, easily hundreds of dollars. A photographer walking around with a camera that probably cost thousands. Selena, being the financial analyst she is, she's doing the math in her head instantly, realizing this was no potluck. This was a massive financial undertaking. And the immediate question becomes, who paid for all this?
The truth just hit her like a slap, she said. Her promotion. It was just the excuse, the lure to get her there. And then the comments started. Guests coming up to her, thanking her, saying her mom told them Selena insisted on funding this beautiful shower.
Can you imagine that sickening realization just dawning on her? And before she could even process or respond, her mom would just smoothly swoop in and change the subject, effectively silencing her right there in public. By the fourth time someone thanked her for her supposed contribution, Selena said she couldn't breathe. Such a powerful manipulation tactic, isn't it? That public acknowledgement followed by swift redirection, it traps the victim in this narrative they can't easily correct in the moment.
So she finally pulls her mom aside, desperate. "Mom, what have you been telling people?" And her mom just waves a hand dismissively. "Oh, just that you want to do something nice for Rachel. It's no big deal." But then the bombshell drops. "We use your old joint account for the deposits," her mom says. "Vendors needed payment up front. Dad handled the payments, 15 transactions for all this. We spent your bonus on family happiness. Isn't that better than some boring savings plan?" Wow, the casualness of that admission. As if Selena's dreams, her condo down payment, were completely disposable. It's chilling. Her entire $12,800 bonus, gone. And the mom's response, "Borrowed, and you can always earn more." It just reveals this incredibly deep-seated sense of entitlement. They didn't see her earnings as hers. They saw it as a family resource readily available for them to exploit whenever they wanted.
And Selena's analyst brain kicks in immediately. She starts cataloging the expenses in her head. And Clara's party favors. There were these little picture frames, $30 each, times 81 guests. That's $2,400 right there. The three-tiered cake from French broad chocolates, easily over $500. Her dad's over by the drinks table sipping top-shelf bourbon. It suddenly becomes clear this wasn't just about the bonus they already spent. It was about this whole entrenched family expectation that her money was their money. And other comments just twisted the knife further, revealing the family's entire mindset, their future plans for her money. Aunt Ellen making that remark, "Well, Selena's got no kid, no husband. It's only fair she helps out those of us with real responsibilities." Uncle Ted hinting about her maybe sponsoring a family lake house down the line. Cousins Mia and Luke mentioning a family beach trip she was apparently going to fund. They weren't just spending her bonus, they were literally budgeting her future earnings too. It shows the sheer scale of the financial enmeshment.
Selena just couldn't take it anymore. She left, just walked out, tears streaming down her face. The betrayal finally sinking in. It wasn't just the $12,800, though that was huge. It was, in her words, a lifetime of being their bank, their fixer, their means to an end.
And that moment, sitting alone on a bench in Pack Square Park, that was her real turning point, her rock bottom maybe. She realized, crystal clear, this wasn't an isolated incident. It was a pattern. Decades of entitlement. And crucially, she realized she wasn't that scared kid anymore, hiding babysitting money in a shoebox. She had power now. She could choose to stop this cycle. It shifted from feeling victimized to recognizing her own agency. This became about survival, she said, not about revenge.
And what she did next was just incredibly strategic and empowering. She silenced her phone, all those calls and texts inevitably coming in, changed passwords, froze that joint account. Thankfully, it still had about $7,216 left in it. Then she pulled the bank statements, laid it all out, 15 transactions totaling exactly $12,800. And they started siphoning it off the day after her promotion news hit the family grapevine. That timing, that's pretty key, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely crucial. It screams deliberate planning. This wasn't some spur-of-the-moment borrowing to cover a shortfall. This was premeditated. And then Selena remembered her ace in the hole, something from years ago. She was a co-owner on her parents' house deed, It happened when she helped them refinance 3 years prior. So she immediately called her friend Lauren, who's a real estate lawyer. Lauren advised her on filing for partition.
Right, and for anyone listening who doesn't know, filing for a partition, that's a legal action. It allows a co-owner to basically force the sale of a property if the owners can't agree. It's serious leverage, and Selena made it clear this was leverage, not a sale yet. She said, we can avoid that with an agreement today. Alongside that, she drafted emails to her bank, credit card company, financial advisor, disputing the charges, closing accounts, starting to rebuild her financial walls. She was preparing, as she put it, for a surgical strike to reclaim her life, the confrontation. It happened at a neutral location, the Black Mountain Cafe. Selena got there early, had her folder of evidence, like a shield. And her therapist, Dr. Ellis's words were echoing in her head. You don't need to justify your boundaries. Just state them.
And her parents arrive. Mom's eyes are red. Dad's jaws set tight. They immediately go on the offensive. Selena, how could you do this to us? This is unacceptable after all we've done for you.
Which is just a classic deflection tactic, right? Trying to flip the script, make the victim feel guilty, make them responsible for the perpetrator's actions. But Selena, she stayed calm. She just laid out the facts, presented the evidence from her folder. 15 unauthorized charges from my joint account, totaling $12,800. My bonus. You took it without asking.
When her mom scoffed, tried the, well, we had access line, Selena shut that down immediately.
Yeah.
Access for college emergencies, which we agreed on years ago. Not permission to drain my entire bonus for a party. She was just dismantling their narrative point by point.
Yeah, and she didn't let them use Rachel or the baby as emotional leverage either. She pushed back firmly, stating clearly, this isn't about Rachel. This is about you stealing my money and then promising even more of it away. And then she brought up the other things she'd overheard. The announced nursery renovation, the beach trip, the lake house talk. She showed them she knew the full extent of their plans, their entitlement. She was holding them accountable.
And then the big move, the leverage. As co-owner of your house, she told them, I've filed for partition.
Her mom gasped, apparently thinking Selena was actually going to make them homeless.
But Selena's response was so firm, just cutting right through their manipulation. No, she said, I'm stopping decades of you taking what's mine. And then she laid out her terms. Clear, non-negotiable. 1, acknowledge the theft. 2, repay the $12,800 over 3 years. 3, agree to financial boundaries in writing. 4, commit to family therapy.
She even had a timeline ready, pulled it out. Every loan, big or small, they'd never repaid, going all the way back to her childhood piggy bank, contributions to Rachel's wedding. But she made it clear, I'm not asking for all that back, just the bonus, and a promise, an agreement that this stops now. After 2 hours of intense discussion, maybe arguing, they signed the agreement.
That final exchange, though, is incredibly poignant. Really reveals Selena's transformation. Her mom tried one last guilt trip, something about family duty when you have kids, and Selena just cut her off, calmly but firmly. I'm showing duty right now by building a family that respects each other.
See, it wasn't about vengeance for her. It was about establishing a healthy, respectful foundation for whatever relationship they might have moving forward. Or not have. Wow. So the agreement is signed, but the fallout.
Yeah.
It was immediate, right? The backlash hit hard. 20 voicemails, 40 texts in. Like the first day, guilt trips, demands, accusations flying from extended family members who'd heard a skewed version of the story. But Selena, she remembered Dr. Ellis's advice. Stay firm. And she held her ground. Didn't engage with most of it.
And then came a really critical turning point in her actual healing process. Her sister Rachel called. Rachel was distraught, apparently about vendors calling because payments had been reversed, and she'd heard talk about the house partition filing. Selena explained everything calmly. The partition was leverage, not an eviction notice. And the truth about the bonus, that it was stolen, not offered. And Rachel's quiet response, hi, I thought you offered, followed by a genuine, I'm so sorry, during a lunch they had later at Sunny Point Cafe. That cracked something open. Rachel admitted, I see it now, how they always leaned on you even when we were kids. I benefited from it and I never questioned it. That kind of acknowledgement from another family member, validating the historical pattern, that's often where profound healing begins, beyond just resolving the immediate conflict.
Yeah, that honest conversation sounds like it was a real beginning. Family therapy started, but it was tough going initially. Parents were defensive, naturally, but their therapist, Dr. Hayes, kept refocusing them. This isn't about loyalty, he'd say. It's about consent. Slowly, very slowly. There were small admissions. Mom admitting she'd been presumptuous. Dad acknowledging he acted prematurely. Tiny wins, maybe, but real ones. Steps in the right direction.
And meanwhile, Selena was moving forward with her own life. She closed on her condo in West Asheville, the cozy 2-bedroom place with the balcony. That reclaimed bonus money went back into her savings, sure. But the condo itself, actually having it, felt like tangible proof I could choose my own path, a symbol of her reclaimed autonomy.
Then baby Selena was born in September. Holding her niece, Selena said she felt a sense of love untangled from obligation for the first time. About 6 months after that cafe showdown, her mom called, hesitantly, said she'd been reading about boundaries. And she invited Selena to a family dinner, specifically promising no surprises.
And look, it wasn't like everything was perfect overnight. It never is. Her dad still hinted once about contributing to some cousin's new business venture. Her mom suggested her Christmas gifts should maybe match her good fortune now. Old habits die hard. But each time, Selena calmly, consistently restated her boundaries. Dad, I don't lend money anymore, remember? Or, Mom, I give gifts that I can comfortably afford. And gradually, the testing slowed down. Because that's what it is. Often testing the boundaries. Setting them as a process, not a one-time declaration. It requires reinforcement.
Her therapist, Dr. Ellis, gave her this really powerful insight, too. She told Selena, you've been managing your family's emotions since you were a kid. That's your wiring. That's why setting boundaries feels so incredibly hard for you. You're literally wired to keep the peace, even at your own expense. Unlearning that deep-seated role, that was the real work. But doing it freed her. That idea of being wired to keep the peace, that really stuck with me too.
And her relationship with money itself also fundamentally changed. It wasn't just about protecting it anymore. She set up a specific giving budget, made donations to local arts programs she cared about, gave small gifts to friends and family, but when I chose, not when guilted. She sent a beautiful handmade mobile for baby Selena's nursery, a gift of thought and time, not cash. And apparently her family genuinely loved it. She described feeling lighter, giving from joy, not duty. That demonstrates a huge shift, moving from obligation-based transactions to genuine value-aligned generosity.
And her story, her actions, they had this ripple effect. Her cousins, Mia and Luke, the ones who'd mentioned the beach trip, they actually reached out to her later for advice on how they could say no to family loan requests. A coworker, inspired by hearing parts of Selena's story, apparently confronted her own partner about financial control issues. It wasn't about Selena preaching, it was just her actions, showing others that it's okay to protect yourself, that boundaries aren't selfish, they're necessary for healthy relationships, and they can inspire others too.
And then, about a year after the cafe meeting, she described this monthly coffee ritual they'd started with her parents at Well-Bred Bakery. And it felt different. Her dad, instead of hinting about money, respectfully asked if she'd use her knack for numbers to help them look at downsizing options for their house, asking for her skill, her expertise, not her wallet. That signifies a real shift in respect, acknowledging her value beyond just her financial resources.
What a journey, huh? Just incredible. Selena's pain from that awful baby shower, the lies, the theft, it really became this necessary breaking point. It forced her, finally, to confront decades of being the family's bank, their emotional crutch, and ultimately to reclaim her own life.
Exactly. And the beautiful takeaway here, I think, is that setting those incredibly difficult boundaries didn't actually destroy her family, which is often the fear. Instead, it cleared the way. It made room for, as Selena put it, conversations, not demands, love, not obligation. That $12,800 bonus, long since repaid and reinvested, it was important, yes, but its real worth was the change it sparked.
Yes.
The internal shift, the relational shift.
Selena says she knows now she's not the scared girl hiding her shoebox anymore. I'm Selena, whole, choosing my family ties with eyes wide open. And the dividends that matter most to her now, they aren't just that $150 repayment hitting her account like clockwork each month. It's baby Selena's laugh, Rachel's growing press, mom's hesitant, I'm trying. Those are the real returns.
So thinking about this for everyone listening, what does Selena's story mean for you? It's such a powerful reminder that while, yes, blood might be thicker than water, respect is really the true foundation of any healthy relationship, family or otherwise. And it leaves us with that important question to ponder. When does that well-meaning phrase, family helps family, cross the line into family takes from family? And maybe more importantly, how do you personally redefine those terms for yourself? How do you build relationships, even within your family, that are based on genuine mutual respect and conscious choice, not just obligation?